February 1959, the Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, set up camp on the slope of a large mountain. After that moment, no one would ever see them alive again. Weeks after the incident, search and rescue teams reached the area. The scene they found defied all logic. The tents had been cut open from the inside. At -30 degrees Celsius, some of the hikers had fled into the wild, and strangely, some of their clothes had been left behind. The search teams would find the bodies kilometers away, in different places from one another. Some looked as if they had been hit by a car at full speed. From the outside, nothing was visible, but they had severe internal injuries and contusions. One was missing their tongue. There was no sign that anyone else had entered the area. There was no sign of a fight or a struggle. All that remained were the bodies of the 9 hikers and the snow. For many years, unable to make sense of this unknown, people turned to fables, Yeti attacks, secret Soviet weapon tests, even alien intervention. What exactly happened on that mountain that day? Why did 9 professionals chase their own deaths in the middle of the night? What was the truth? Was the factum hidden in fables or in science? Soviet official investigators reached no conclusion in their inquiry. Something had to be written as the official cause of death. It was declared a compelling natural force. The case was closed. The ambiguity had not been lifted, nothing was explained, and the question mark had only grown larger. These question marks were immediately followed by fables. The first theories pointed to a local people, the Mansi. Had the hikers violated their sacred lands and earned a violent, ritualistic punishment? Investigators didn't dwell on this, they quickly dismissed it. The injuries did not resemble a human attack, and most importantly, no tracks, other than the hikers' own, were ever found in the snow. The fables went a step further, reaching into an old local belief, the Siberian Yeti. Could a territorial, ape-like creature have ripped open the tent, causing the 9 hikers to flee in a panic? This explanation answered some of the evidence, the crushing injuries and fractures. The fable continued. This time it pointed not to a monster, but to a government. We were in the Cold War period. There were strange anomalies reported by other hikers and locals in the region at that time. Strange orange spheres glowing in the sky. This was an area very close to a military test site, and the fables continued to evolve. Was it a parachute mine? Or had things gone wrong during a secret weapon test involving radiation? This last theory attempted to explain the entire mystery. The orange spheres were the secret weapon test. The radiation found on the clothes was a result of this. The sudden explosions and noises had forced the hikers to cut their way out of their tents. The contusions and injuries were the effects of the blast. Was this a military cover-up? And this is the story that has captivated the entire world. Conspiracies, secret weapons, monsters. This is a fable. But as with all fables, science and truth will pull back the curtain on the mystery. So, let's separate the fable from the factum. The military theories collapse in the light of scientific scrutiny. The autopsies found no evidence of shrapnel or blast damage. The trace amount of radiation was not a significant finding. You could find a small amount of radiation even in the lantern mantles used at the time. The orange spheres were related to R-7 missile tests conducted hundreds of kilometers away. This was confirmed many years later. The weakest, of course, were the Yeti and Mansi fables. No footprints, no external wounds. The truth was far more terrifying, far more brutal than these. The first factum, the truth, is the most overlooked. The location. Why did these professional hikers camp on a high-angle slope? known to be an avalanche risk. Let's look for the answer in their diaries. They had tried to gain altitude, but the storm had pushed them back. They were very tired, and the blizzard was severe. They most likely thought of the slope as a tool to shelter themselves from the storm. As they quickly built their shelter, they would make a fatal mistake. While trying to create a flat area for the tent, they had cut into a large snowpack. They had sliced into the mountain's skin. For 60 years, people wondered how an avalanche could occur just hours after they set up camp on a comparatively small hill. A groundbreaking study from ETH Zurich in Switzerland was published in 2021. They discovered a delayed action slab avalanche, an uncommon and scary phenomenon. This is what truly took place. The mountain was being pounded that night by strong katabatic winds, a particular kind of gravity-driven wind that descends a slope on top of a very thin covering of snow. These winds carried loads of snow from above and dumped it onto the slope immediately above the hiker's tent. This produced a slab that was heavy, dense, and unstable. The wind, or possibly the hiker's own movements, caused the slab to fracture at some point during the night. This was hardly a huge avalanche of powder clouds. It hit the tent like a battering ram. It was a small, heavy lump of snow and ice. They were not buried by it. It hit them. The car crash-like injuries are explained by this one violent incident. It clarifies the fractured skulls and ribs. The immediate panic seems to sense. It also clarifies why the tent was cut from the inside. They weren't running from a monster. They were escaping a tomb. However, the fractured bones are the sole explanation provided by the avalanche. The terror is not explained by it. It doesn't account for the frantic, partially clothed flight into the deadly cold. The science of dying in the cold is the second, more sinister fact. In addition to being hurt, the hikers who survived the initial collision were stranded. The slab partially buried the tent. Cutting their way out was the only thing they could do. In complete darkness, choking on snow, confused, and hearing their comrades' cries. After leaving their one and only shelter, they entered a nightmare, a windstorm, at -30 degrees Celsius. They had already sustained injuries. The snow had now drenched them completely. There was no danger of hypothermia. It was inevitable, and it would happen in a matter of minutes. Furthermore, hypothermia is a quiet, mental murderer. It makes you insane, in addition to making you cold. The brain runs out of oxygen when the body's core temperature drops. Judgment is unsuccessful. Delirium develops from confusion. This clarifies why they dispersed, rather than simply pulling out their supplies. They had stopped thinking like hikers. They were not even thinking. Additionally, it clarifies the most strange and eerie aspect of the case. The hikers discovered them partially naked. This is not a monster's creation. This horrifyingly true medical occurrence is called paradoxical undressing. The brain malfunctions during the last excruciating phases of hypothermia. A misleading, searing rush of blood to the skin is caused by the sudden dilatation of the restricted blood vessels. The victim has a burning sensation during their last delirious moments. Just before they freeze to death, they rip off their own garments in an attempt to cool themselves. And the tongue that's missing. What is the Fable's most striking detail? 3 months later, the victim, Lyudmila Dubinina, was discovered face down in a snowmelt stream. The missing soft tissue is a horrifying but perfectly normal outcome of watery scavenging by tiny predators and post-mortem decay. Not a monster, just the somber biological process. On Dyatlov Pass, there was no monster, no conspiracy existed. The only combination of natural forces was lethal. The initial trauma was caused by a rare slab avalanche produced by katabatic winds and a quick decline into hypothermia, which led to the scattering, the madness, and the last terrible occurrence of paradoxical undressing. The Dyatlov Pass incident is not a paranormal story. It is a harsh, real-life tale about the dreadful force of nature and the human mind's vulnerability to it. Fable and Factum is who we are. Our goal is straightforward. One story at a time, distinguishing Fable from Factum. There are many mysteries in the world. Some, like Dyatlov Pass, conceal their solutions in science rather than conjecture. Which other historical enigma do you think is misinterpreted? Tell us in the comments section below. Additionally, to ensure that you never miss a new inquiry, click the bell and subscribe if you wish to work with us to find the truth.